Hey, Motorman here, and today we're going to talk about why you drop your motorcycle. I'm going to show you a bunch of drops. These happened at my class. They happen all the time. Usually if we have 10 riders, it's 1 out of 10 drops their motorcycle, sometimes 2 out of 10. But it's almost always for the same reason. But we're going to go over these drops, and we're going to diagnose every one of them and see exactly what happened so that should you make the same mistake, you'll know exactly why it happened, or you'll be able to avoid this mistake. It's no big deal. You drop the motorcycle. If you got crash bars on there, yeah, the bike tips over, it lands on the crash bars, you pick it up and you keep going. Sometimes the drops are more spectacular than at other times, as is this case. And there's usually just a couple of reasons why these drops happen. So we're going to go over them. I'm going to show you in full length most of these drops, what led up to them, and you'll probably see, or be able to see when they're coming. A lot of the drops happen in this particular exercise. It's called the snowman. You have a 30-foot circle to the left, a 26-foot circle to the right, and the last one is 24-foot to the left. And the reason a lot of drops happen here is because the riders are looking at the cone directly in front of them instead of the key cones. The key cones are the ones with the green tips on them. Speed through here should be, like most exercises, 8 to 12 miles an hour depending on what kind of motorcycle you have. And this is the first drop I showed you. Watch this rider. He's doing pretty well. His speed is what is in that 8 to 10 miles per hour, maybe a little bit slower here. His head turn is not quite as far as it should be. He gets into the last circle and he seems to be slowing way down now. Now he looks at the cone in front of him. He tries not to hit it, pulls in the clutch, down goes the motorcycle. No big deal. Pick up the bike and you keep going. Now let's watch this rider. He should be leaning the motorcycle a lot further, but his speed, I would say, is probably around 6 miles an hour. Should be a little bit quicker. He's making it through that second one. He gets into the last one, and notice how straight up the bike is. It should be leaning quite a bit further. Now he pulls in the clutch, brings the bike almost to a stop, and we have a tip over. If you're at less than 5 miles per hour, the chances of dropping the motorcycle are very good. Anything above 5, there's more momentum pulling you forward than gravity pulling you down. Now let's watch this rider. Speed looks pretty good, leaning his bike nicely. Did cut himself short there in that circle. Still got a pretty good lean going. Speed could be a little bit higher. Watch what happens when he gets into that last circle. He thinks he's not going to make it. He pulls in his clutch. No power to the rear wheel. Down goes the bike. Before we go any further, please subscribe and click that notification bell. And my new Ride Like a Pro experience video, the latest and the greatest, is available at ridelikeapro.com on DVD, USB, or for a download, $19.95. This rider starts off good. Speed's all right. He's leaning the motorcycle, then he looks where he shouldn't be looking, and then he looks down, and down goes the motorcycle as soon as he pulls in the clutch.
Didn't I tell you? Yep. But you didn't listen.
This rider is so afraid of leaning the motorcycle, he's fighting that lean. He goes out of the exercise. Now he's got to get all the way back to the right to the green cone. He slows down, straight up bike. Down he goes. It's too slow. Down goes the motorcycle. Now this rider's main problem is going in and out of the friction zone. At times she pulls the clutch all the way in. At times she lets it all the way out. Got to stay in the friction zone and keep constant power to the rear wheel. It can't be an intermittent thing. It's constant power by slipping the clutch. Then she pops the clutch. She loses control. Down goes the bike. Now this rider starts off really slow. He's probably going about 6 or 7 miles an hour, and his head turns aren't quite quick enough.
Look for the next green.
Here I have to urge him to look
here,
at the other side where he wants to go next.
Keep that power going.
Now he gets into the tightest 24 foot. He's going really slow, slower, slower. He stops, down goes the motorcycle, and the handlebars are turned. This rider attempts a U-turn at 1 mile per hour. Of course, can't be done. Down goes the motorcycle. So you must be wondering by now how you keep those drops from happening. Well, watch this young lady. Her speed is about 8 to 10 miles an hour. She's turning her head. She's in the friction zone, constantly keeping power going to the rear wheel. She's got a little bit of pressure on the rear brake. She's using all the space available. And she breezes right through it as if she's been doing it all her life. Now the next rider we've got coming up, he's practiced for a long time. He's up to motor officer level. He doesn't need all the space available. As you can see, he just cut about 8 or 10 feet off of that first 30-foot circle. Again, he's turning his head and eyes beautifully. Speed about 10 miles an hour. He's leaning the bike almost over to the limit. And he breezes through it. He never looks at the thing he doesn't want to hit, which is the cone directly in front of him. Here's a rider that's doing a fairly good job. He's on a small bike here on a Sportster. His speed is good. He's leaning the motorcycle as he should. His head turns are a little bit slow, but because this bike is so much smaller than the full-size touring bikes, you're able to get away with more errors. But again, he is turning his head and looking at those green cones. His speed is up, so the bike has no chance of falling over. And he makes it fine. Now here's my wife Donna demonstrating a U-turn. Notice her speed. She's up around 8 to 10 miles an hour. She keeps power to the rear wheel with the clutch and throttle, also known as the friction zone. She never releases power, and she turns her head and eyes as fast and as far as possible. Anytime you drop below 5 miles per hour, there's a chance you're going to drop the motorcycle. Get down to 1 or 2 miles per hour, and the handlebars are turned, and it's almost a guaranteed drop. And I know your brain tells you when you're doing these exercises to go as slow as possible, but your brain is wrong. When it comes to riding a motorcycle, it's the exact opposite of what your instincts are or what your brain tells you to do. It's so much easier to control a motorcycle at above 5 miles per hour. In fact, 8 to 10 miles an hour, it practically does it itself. And the only way to get that in your head is to practice. Now, my new Ride Like a Pro experience video, you see here on the right corner, it's 1995. It's a step-by-step approach to these techniques, so you cannot possibly screw it up. Whenever you see the riders in my class doing a great job so quickly, it's because they've got the video and they've practiced the techniques prior to coming to the class. Till next time.